Part 3 of Where Were You When the World Died? Gale watched in horror as the last remnants of anything that tied her to humanity went up in flames. Gale ran to the sucker punch. She did a running jump and propelled herself into the mech. The moment she climbed the metal ladder to the cockpit, she put Sucker Punch into a full run towards the doomed and dismal city. She could see her comms lighting up frantically. Some might call her forward momentum madness, but in her mind it was quite logical. What else did she fucking have? Against her better judgment, she turned down the music that instantly screamed at her the moment she powered Sucker Punch up and she opened her comms. Gale, get back here. There isn't a damn thing you can do about anything, even if there are people alive, said the voice of Manu. If that was a nuke, the air might literally be on fire. You may breathe that shit in and die, said Gideon. Stop now, said Manu. Gale put the Sucker Punch into unsafe speeds through the redwoods. If she bumped a tree or tripped over a log, it was akin to having a full-out car crash, then falling several feet on top of that. She could see Gideon's rig keeping pace with her. I'm not stopping, Gideon, Gale said over very loud punk music. Who's stopping you? I'm coming too. What about all that air's burning shit you were just talking about? Should be a mask and a flame retardant suit somewhere in your rig. I wasn't talking you out of shit. I was just telling you what's up. Don't fucking encourage her, Manu said on comms. This is happening and it's bigger than you, sweetheart, said Gideon. I'm not your sweetheart. Gideon switched off comms. Gale got a message from Gideon directly. You see Groot on R6, Gideon explained. I see her, Gale explained. Gideon opened the channel to Groot and Vesper answered. Friend or foe, baby? Gideon asked. I got family down there. I have to see if anyone made it, came a deep feminine voice. And then there were three, Gideon said. Benit's tech whirred and clicked. He wasn't 100% certain, but he thought that his hip was definitely broken, or at the very least missing a few pins. The closer he got to San Francisco, the hotter it got. There was a sheen of smoke and dust that covered the city, and the air hissed and popped with the vestiges of electrical conductivity. His heads-up visor gave faint outlines of shapes. This was used to assist his tactical awareness of the field. There was also an alert when collision was imminent. Now it served the dual purpose of child detection. Ebert! Benit yelled out, hoping to stop this kid before he entered the city proper. As luck would have it, he picked up a trail of footprints in the dust small enough to be a kid's entering into the city. His max speed was about 25 miles per hour, but after the damage to his hip, he couldn't break 18. He entered the city proper and he saw snapshots of life as portrayed by death. Cars sat on the expressways with charred, roasted people mannequins of their former selves. Why are you doing this shit to me, kid? Said Benit, who looked up at the gray sky and saw swirling lights. What's your game plan here? Said Gideon to Gale, who was leading the pack with a fanatic's intensity. I'm gonna check my sister's house to see if she's still there. Then I'll swing by my mother's house, Gale said. I'm gonna check on my partner as well, said Vesper and Groot. I'll stick with Vesper, and if I see anyone I can help, I will help. Bear in mind, I don't know what's gonna happen to our bodies when we get into the blast zone, and I for damn sure don't know what's gonna happen if we get out of our rigs, he added. Doesn't matter, not until I check on my sister, Gale said. The two mechs chugged on at their max speeds. Sucker Punch outpaced Groot and Ark. Gale's visibility became hampered, and she was having trouble seeing through the thick blankets of dust that had failed to settle. She saw the blackened bodies of people thrown about the landscape and blinked her eyes quickly and rapidly as if she was having trouble comprehending the level of death on so massive a scale. She let Sucker Punch move on autopilot for a few moments while she went through her Rolodex of songs that would make her forget and block out everything that was threatening her sanity. All the People That Died by Jim Carroll Band blared louder than her brain could comprehend. The noise made her brain shut up. She retook the controls and ran Sucker Punch past her high school that was enveloped in white mist. She ran to her mother's house nimbly, stepping over, past, and on crippled cars that were piloted by skeletons. She wanted to stop by her sister's house first, but by luck of the draw, her mother's house was closer. She saw her mother's modest house in a haze of dust, charred, roasted, and flash-cooked. Gale paused. There was nothing that was going to make this situation better. She knew her mother was dead, but did she need to look at it? Would that break her harder than not knowing and assuming she somehow got out? Gale realized that death happened. She knew her psyche was fragile, but she couldn't use that as an excuse anymore. She needed her emotions to scab over, to heal, and ultimately leave a scar, as was the natural order. She took little baby steps with Sucker Punch and squatted down to a lower elevation to be closer to eye line with the house. Half through the window, she could see a blackened skeleton on the couch wearing AR glasses. Gale looked away, but stood up. The pain and grief passed over her in waves, making her dizzy. She turned off the stifling loud music in her cockpit and let herself feel it all. When she let her senses return, she heard a long and monotone droning over her head, like the buzzing of an insect. Whatever had this acoustic profile was floating through the smoke. She could see red and white lights struggling to break through the dust. Benit slipped into an alley when he saw the oversized legs of mechs running through the street. The design of the thing didn't look too horribly advanced, but more like they were older, maybe repurposed for service. He didn't know what they were doing there, and if he were going to meet them, he wanted to do it on his terms, not theirs. That being said, he couldn't account for the buzzing in the sky and the searchlights overhead. Maybe they were part of a rescue attempt, but that's not what his gut thought. They got there fast, and it felt to him if they were looking for survivors, they would do a hell of a lot better job announcing their presence. This felt more like stalking over seeking. Benit ran towards Alamo Square, and he saw in the haze the outline of what could be Little Eggleston. He watched with concern as his breather and mask frayed at the edges, bending and melting slowly. He didn't know what exactly would happen if he lost his attachment, and he hoped not to find out. Benit ran to the park that bathed in the chemical afterbirth of man-made destruction. The little Make-A-Wish kid pushed a car away that had collided with another car. His suit's habitat was holding strong, and he appeared to be just fine inside. Fine being a relative term. Little Erickson was bawling his eyes out. He picked up a charred body who was under the wheel of a car. "I couldn't save them," said the boy who saw Benit sidling up to him in the confusion of the smoke. Benit slowly nodded. He was not the man to look to in times of grief when one needed words of encouragement or solace. But him being the adult had to do something, even if it was his half-assed attempt at being responsible. You can't win every game, kid, and sometimes it doesn't matter how hard you try, said Benit. Thinking that was stupid as fuck the moment it left his lips, but lucky for him, Erickson somehow took what he said and put meaning to it. Like when you scored 35 points against New Verda and you still lost, the kid said. Benit nodded, letting it sit, because if he spoke, he'd probably fuck up the moment. A loud crash happened, and the building toppled over a block down.